All right, all right, all right. Good morning, everybody. Yes, Ryan is in the studio in Johannesburg, and I am at home. It is freezing in both places, guaranteed. I mean, that's why we're both wearing jackets. But it's just
Yeah.
part of what's happening now. So we're into it. Okay, so you want to hear about my Turbo Nerd weekend?
Let's go.
So I was meant to go to a history lecture on Saturday morning. That was cancelled because the guy was doing it got sick, but that was only one part of a multi nerd out that I had planned for my weekend. So it was a very salubrious weekend. I was healthy and well behaved. There wasn't a lot of drinking and partying involved. Yesterday, Sunday, a day I normally would never leave the house. A friend of mine invited me to this really interesting thing. I don't know what to call it. It's like I suppose you could call it a lecture, but it's sort of a performance because it's this dude who is a professor. Well, not a professor. He's a student of string theory. I mean, he's got a doctor's degree in it, but he's a string theorist, and he was talking about the origins of the universe, black holes, quasars, all kinds of interesting astronomical phenomena, right? And it's just so huge, the scale of the things he was talking about and everything else. And I love that stuff. I mean, you can get me to do pretty
I was
much.
going to say.
Yeah, I mean, like you can get me to do pretty
in
much
your element, probably. Yeah.
But on a Sunday, I'm not going to leave the house. For this, I would. And then while he's doing this, while he's presenting this with these beautiful visuals, and it was at the Independent Bioscope there in 44 Stanley.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. And it's apparently their 11th show, and they were sold out for every one of them. So
oh, wow.
I'm really pleased I got to see it. Anyway, while he's doing this, there's a guy playing the piano as well. And he's like some kind of musical prodigy because this guy is he's absolutely phenomenal on the piano. Phenomenal. And I mean, I've seen some reasonably decent pianists in my life, and this guy is just off the fucking charts. He's really good, super talented. So you've got these two guys busy, explaining with music and words the story of the universe. And I found it just absolutely spellbinding. So
how long was it?
45 minutes. And then because it was their last show, they did a Q&A afterwards. And so they did two parts of this Q&A. They first of all took questions on the presentation itself, the black holes, the universe, all of that stuff. And then they did this thing where if you played 5 seconds of a certain song on your phone, the guy at the keyboard could just pick it up and play the rest of the song. Sure. He's that clever. Yeah. So it was really cool to see that. No, really, I just loved it. It was so bloody clever. And had some supper after that and came home and then got into bed and realized, okay, it's definitely blanket, duvet, whatever it is time. And, I make a rule like 1st of May, no heaters, no...
I was about to say, the fire rule hasn't kicked in yet.
But the 1st of May, Ryan. Can't do it before.
Blankets are on, fire's off still.
No, you're not allowed any electronic or... Not until the 1st of May, otherwise you're a big pussy. I don't care how cold it is. You got to pace yourself on these things, right?
Yeah. No, you do. But it is unbelievably cold.
Well, Michael is in, I think, Switzerland. He says, ski Monday for me. Last bit of snow. Heading out soon with the guys just to start the Cliff Central drinking game. Where's Leigh-Ann? I don't know where Leigh-Ann is this morning. Ryan was trying to call her.
Yeah.
And she, I think she might have overslept. Also, she's out of practice because I think we've got like 2 Mondays in the whole of April that we're actually doing shows. So because of all the public holidays, I think she just assumed like the whole of April's probably a write-off. I don't know.
She's just adjusted, right?
Yeah. How was your weekend?
Oh, it was pretty good. From waking up so early in the week, I won't lie, Saturdays are always a catch-up time for me. So I spend most of the day doing nothing. But it was pretty all right until I had a bit of a problem, Gareth. Oh man.
Oh.
So we're on stage 6, right? So
Mhm.
there's been a lot of power outages. So we have a generator at home. Um,
Right.
it's new. We got a lithium ion battery, so
Good.
it's pretty, like, sophisticated. It's like we
Mhm.
barely know when load shedding's on. But we encountered something very strange this weekend because um one of us put it on, I'm not sure who, and then my mom started cooking and she totally
Oh,
forgot we were on the generator or on the inverter
battery.
and
Mhm.
not. So I think, now I'm not sure, we may have cooked it because we had the oven on, we had we had all the electronics going, which is normally
Mm,
we hold off on when we're on the inverter, but because my mom didn't know that she was on the inverter, I think we may have cooked it. So we had no power the whole weekend whenever it was off because on the
mm,
Friday night or whatever that happened. So it was a bit of a
I hope
struggle.
not. I hope not because it costs a lot to replace.
It does.
Jesus. And also,
I'm hoping it's a fuse in the battery. That's kind of what I'm
yeah,
hoping because it should have tripped, like, if there's a power overload, it should trip on the DB board. But it didn't, and the oven was on, and then my mom realized, and she was like, "Oh, we didn't switch it back. It was on the whole time." So we are
oh
yet to
man.
find out what's going to happen there.
Well, I mean, it's not just you who had power issues over the weekend, and we'll get to those in a second because, oh my God, I mean, we've got to just address the fact that Eskom just casually mentioned over the weekend, oh, by the way, you fuckers, we're just going to keep the power at stage 6, which means if you're lucky, you get like a couple hours a day.
Yeah,
Indefinitely. Indefinitely. They put
yeah,
out a press release, these sick bastards, essentially telling us, like, here it is. I'll read this thing to you. You actually cannot believe this. I'm going to read this word for word, and you're going to just hear. You need to hear how ridiculous this is. And I'll bring on Mumsy, who's our guest this morning. I'm keen to talk to him. Listen to this. Sunday, 16 April. Due to a shortage of generation capacity, Stage 6 load shedding will continue to be implemented until further notice. Eskom will publish a further update as soon as any significant changes occur. Breakdowns are currently at 17,000 megawatts of generating capacity, while the generating capacity out of service for planned maintenance is 5,000 megawatts. Over the past 24 hours, the generation units each at Duva and Medupi power stations were returned to service. In the same period, 2 generating units at Kriel, as well as 1 at Coburg, were taken offline for repairs. The delay in returning the unit to service at Kendall, Kriel, Medupi, and Tutuka have contributed to the capacity constraints, and the team is working around the clock to ensure these units are returned to service as soon as possible. We thank all South Africans who continue using electricity sparingly and efficiently in helping to alleviate the pressure. Fuck you. We don't want to be thanked. You think we want to? You think we want Eskom's thank yous? These
yeah,
sons of
exactly.
bitch. You know.
They're the only company in the world that are asking you not to use their product. Like,
I know.
that's
Oh, no, no. Just hang on, because there's more to this. I'm still waiting for someone to do their doctorate on this business in inverted commas. Eskom is the only company, as you rightly point out, that asks you to use less of their product. They actively advertise for you to use less of their product. It's completely counterintuitive.
yeah,
Second of all, they provide less of their product than the demand. Normally, if you're in business and you can provide the supply for the demand, you make money, right?
yeah,
The third thing is they charge you more for less, which again is counterintuitive.
yeah,
And the fourth thing is they're not even economically dependent on the market because they're basically funded by government, which means that they don't actually respond to normal market conditions. They are a perfect example of what socialists would think is utopian and why it's a disaster. So if you ever encounter, especially if you're around one of the university campuses in South Africa and you encounter one of these morons who call themselves a socialist or a communist, sit them down and say to them, do you know that there is a living example of what a fucking stupid system you believe in? Right here in the world, right now. I can show it to you. And it's called Eskom. And show them that press release I just read
yeah,
to you.
exactly.
And if they still believe in that stuff afterwards, then you know that they're an idiot and you can dismiss them completely. Like, get them out of your life. They're a completely destructive force in the universe. They are no longer good at making anything happen. Anyway, let us park that for a minute, because as much as we're frustrated by all these power issues, it is not the only thing happening in the world. And we've brought on somebody to cheer us up this Monday morning. I mean, no pressure, Mumsy. No pressure at all to have to cheer us up, my friend. Nice to see you, dude. I don't know why we're not hearing you.
Yeah, I don't know why we're not hearing you there, Mumsy.
Let's just go to your microphone settings. Let's see if we can figure that out. Ryan, do you want to help him out quickly while I...
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you out of here quickly. And you two sort that out. All right, so, yeah, cool weekend for me. I mean, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but that's what I got up to. And a couple of busy weekends coming. I'm away the next 2 weekends, which is going to be fun. And of course, we've got that big long weekend at the end of the month, which a lot of people are taking time off there as well, because we've got Thursday's a holiday, the 27th. So next Thursday, not this week. Next Thursday is the public holiday. And then Friday is this ridiculous day that no one's going to be working. And then we've got Saturday, Sunday. And then Monday's a holiday too, for the 1st of May. So it's going to be one of those... not necessarily the most productive weeks in the world next week. It's like a 3-day week, essentially. And then the week after that is 4. So this is the actual only 5-day week, as Ruth points out in the comments. And of course, who would know better? Because Ruth is the chairperson of the comment section. First full week of full work days. So listen, people, we got to put in some nose to the grindstone moments. Make sure that we can get our shit together. All right, let's see. Have you got Mumsy there?
Let's give it a try again, Mumsy.
You're there, dude.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
That's perfect.
There we go. Jeez, like yo. I think every single South African who's experienced load shedding for the last 4 years deserves like an honorary degree in like electrical engineering, because this is just ridiculous.
It's funny you mentioned that. I mean, you've just come out of load shedding now. That's why you were only on just after 6, because you've just had power return, and God knows how long you'll have it for. But you make this point about like how we should all get medals and we should all be like awarded degrees in electrical engineering. The story that I read yesterday, interesting story, because we interviewed her just the other day. Professor Pakeng, who was at UCT, is going to be on the National Orders Advisory Council. She's just been nominated to that by the president. And, we've got these orders. We've got the Order of Ikamanga. We've got the Order of Oliver Tambo. We've got the Order of Mapungubwe, and all of these national orders. And I don't know. I mean, they've spent most of the time under the last 2 administrations giving these awards to people who are already dead, which kind of... It doesn't, the point of these things is that the people who are alive and have received them can enjoy the status of having received the national order. It's quite an honor to have that happen to you. But they're only awarding them to dead people. They do say, though, that they're going to give Siya Kolisi one of these honors, which is good. I suppose, playing sport is a big thing in this country, and I wouldn't know because I don't watch any, but people who watch sports, it's a big deal for them when the Springboks win. They get all fucking excited and get hard-ons and, like party at home and whatever they do. I don't know what. I've never understood why people would get excited about, other people playing a sport. But I know I'm in the minority on this one. So they are handing out these awards. And I wonder if they're going to give out any awards in the electricity arena, because the only people who should get them are, as Mumsy says, ordinary South Africans who've gone to the enormous expense, as Ryan was just telling us, of getting their batteries, solar, inverters, generators. All of us should get an order of whatever it is just for doing that.
Yeah, I think 100%, because it's actually getting to a point that's ridiculous. I mean, like I think the other day, a few months ago, I was staying at a hotel, and there was some foreigners. I think they were from Germany. Having a conversation with some local South Africans. And the thing that scared me was that the Germans were like, "Oh no, we're used to it. It's okay. We know between this time and this time, we just need to go to these places to get the internet." And I'm like, why do we actually need to get to a point where we are actually getting used to this piece of nonsense? That's the thing that actually really frustrates me.
Ugh.
You know what I mean? We really shouldn't have to get used to something that is like inefficient.
Well, while we're all complaining about stuff, I mean, this is a good way to start your Monday morning. But Underscore says, can we discuss how much bond repayments have gone up? To date, I'm up 6K on my bond. Shit. You know, I haven't really been paying attention, but if that's true, if it's up that much, we're in big trouble because a lot of people are living on the line anyway, right?
Yeah, but the reality is that his bond could have been at 5,800 and it only went up by 200 rand. Wow. So I don't know the scope or the range that we're working with here. You know what I mean?
You need to know the scale. Tracy says, friends of mine own one of the local spa shops. Almost said spa shops. For every 2 to 4 hours of load shedding, they have to spend 5,000 rand on diesel for the generators to keep everything running.
Yeah, that's actually a very, very real problem, you know. So there's a company that I work for during the day in media, and basically it's like, you know, outdoor advertising and all of that. The cost of actually adding generators into some of the billboards that we have is north of 5 million.
Fuck.
That's just to have generators so we can actually do the job that we actually provide for people. It's crazy.
And dude, that's not, you know, a media business. You're not running enormous like fridges and, you know, and cooking apparatus or geysers and things, like 20 of them. You know, some of these companies, it must be way more than that. And you can't survive for that. You haven't budgeted for that at the start of the year. An extra million rand. I mean, that's just insane.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I mean, if you just think about the normal average human being, yes, companies are suffering, but like when my freezer comes back sometimes, there's some stuff that's just like wilted and messed up. And, you know, for me to lose like 50 rand out of a fridge every week is getting ridiculous now.
Well, that's it. So Underscore continues, these interest rate hikes are killing our disposable income. Everybody should be heading to their branch to review their interests. It goes a long way. That's probably a good idea. You should maybe check that today. You know, sometimes in the comments section, they come up with a couple of good ideas, and this is maybe something we should all do today. Just quickly, Boss Beat GP says, one of my neighbor's generators exploded in their garage. Our appliances were breaking, etc. Now we rely on the sun. No more broken appliances. And with load shedding, our usage was 96 Rand 1 month. Wow.
I'm still saying this. If your products are breaking because of load shedding, let's take them and throw them into Megawatt Park's backyard.
I think that's a great idea.
Show them what kind of damage they're actually doing, because insurance companies must be going through the damn roof with these things. You know? And also this whole thing of normalizing load shedding, as you said, it's outrageous that we should be getting schedules. Like, it's nice of these people to load schedules up and, you know, try and work around it, but it shouldn't be something we should try to do. We should stay mad.
The one thing I've never fully really understood about parastatals is what is the process that's needed to introduce competition. I don't know if either of you even know what that process would be.
Well, it starts off with deregulation, which they seem to be doing. I mean, they're certainly trying to split Eskom into power generation, the power grid, the supply, not the supply, sorry, the distribution. And I think they're also encouraging, obviously they're encouraging more and more people to get off the grid in some way. But, you know, paradoxically, that actually helps them. So obviously we all take on the cost of then kitting out our houses or our offices with solar. But all that does is remove some responsibility from Eskom. So they have to, in the end, with more and more people going for alternative sources of energy, it actually helps them to do their job in even more shittier. You know what I mean? So it's almost like we're making an excuse for them. I don't know, dude, but I do think that as soon as people are allowed to compete in that energy provision business, it's just no one's gonna stick with Eskom. No one.
Yeah.
They're like the worst possible version. So it'll, of course, as always, the poorest people who have no choice will be fucked. It's always the poor people who have to take it right up the ass.
Yeah, that's the truth.
My cousin actually used to work for Eskom, and I'll never forget. This was probably over 10 years ago. They actually had to pay him to use his own car because when they used the company cars, he used to get egged.
Oh, shame, man.
Wow. Okay, good. No, but I like that. I mean, like, ordinary people should be taking out their frustration on Eskom. If you see an Eskom car, I think good. Egg them. Use the eggs that have gone off because the power was off. But nice and rotten inside, you know?
And I feel bad. I probably would have been one of the people egging his car.
I said the same thing. I said, you drive by, it's done for you.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, Hardy Dave says, let's cut taxes by half. Well, that's what we should be doing, is we should be paying. We should say to them, okay, you want to load shed us. If you get up to load shedding stage 6, which is where we are now, then we're taking 60% off our taxes. If load shedding is in stage 1, we'll take 10% off, and so on. You watch them fix this fucking quickly.
Somebody said on Twitter yesterday that they should align the bonuses according to how many weeks of load shedding we miss. So for every like 2 or 3 weeks of load shedding, we don't have load shedding, there's like a 2 or 3% bonus or increase on their salaries or whatever. And then they said, you'll see how quick this thing will get fixed.
No, we must take away money. You don't feed an incompetent beast. You actually reduce its consumption. So here, paradoxically, again, yes, Eskom is telling us to reduce our consumption. Fine, but then you get much less tax money from individuals and companies. So we will reduce our tax commensurate with how well you're performing in the power generation business, because it's like an essential. How do you expect us to operate if we don't have power? So you can't have taxes then. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to earn a whole lot less because businesses are suffering so much. Anyway, look, I don't want to talk about this all morning, and we've been going on for like 27 minutes about it. So let's change the subject. It's enough already. What have you been up to, Mumsy? What's going on, dude?
So winter's coming in Cape Town. So it's like just trying to plan for the new season. I've got a new show coming up on the 28th of April. It's a 5-star comedy show.
Nice.
And then that's going to be quite cool because we've got Stuart Taylor. It's myself, Stuart Taylor, Ambrose Urine, Dylan Skews, and who's the last one? I think we've got Dylan Skews, Ambrose Urine, Stuart Taylor, myself, and there's one more comedian. So it's 5-star comedy lineup. Did you say
Ambrose Urine?
Ambrose Urine, yes.
As in urine as in piss.
As in urinate, as in go to the bathroom, as in let out the yellow juice out of the sneaky monster. That urine. That's exactly it, yeah.
That's the poor guy's surname.
I know. I mean, I suppose comedy is the one industry in the world where you can take advantage of messed up names. I mean, like Ambrose Urine is a really good example. Like he actually addresses it in his comedy, and he's so charming and he's so great on stage. Similar to other comedians, Angel can be. I mean, a name like Angel, you have to address that in stand-up comedy. You know what I mean? And she does. So it's one of those lovely industries where, no matter how messed up your life is, there's a way that you can convert that into humor, so you can actually help other people deal with their messed up lives.
Well, a great way to start is to have a surname like Urine. I mean, like as he comes up on stage, people should be woo.
Well, at least it's not defecate. You know what I mean? That's a tougher spin. Yo, guys, welcome on stage. Ambrose defecate. No. Urine is definitely the better. It's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, and rather urine than piss. I mean, imagine your surname is, and here he is, Ryan Piss.
I actually had a friend in college, and it was my first day in college when they were doing roll call. I just met this guy, and he's like, dude, when they say my surname, just don't laugh. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then they called him up, and his surname was Smallwood, and the whole hall laughed at him.
That's good. Like that.
I'll never forget that day.
I got into a conversation over the weekend. Some very bizarre conversations happened this weekend. One of them is this girl she's now a tattoo artist. So she's done graphic design and now she's a tattoo artist as well. But apparently, like some people do tattoo art by day, some of them do it by night. So obviously the nighttime ones are the ones who get the really sort of freaky requests and all the creeps come out to visit and all that kind of thing. So she's at the tattoo parlor at night. And I was asking her, like, what is her worst fear from a point of tattooing? And she said, no, an asshole tattoo. So apparently there are people who actually get their assholes, the actual asshole tattooed. Can you imagine having to do that?
I can't imagine it feels pleasant.
Feels? For her, imagine having to do that. Like someone is like getting into some, I don't know what position you'd have to be in for someone to do an asshole tattoo, and you're probably on your back, your legs behind your fucking ears. I don't know how you do that. And also, it must be very painful. It must be extremely sensitive. So I can't imagine that person stays still the whole time, and you need them to stay still to do a tattoo. And I'd never even thought about people getting asshole tattoos until she told me this. She says it's her worst fear, and someone someday is going to come up to her and go, "Hey, listen, you got to do an asshole tattoo."
Like, I wonder, as a comedian, can you say no? I'm sure you can.
Can I say no to getting an asshole tattoo? I can say hell no. What do you mean? Can I say no? That's the least of the no's. That is the very bare minimum of no's. I'm not gonna get an asshole tattoo, and I would never even be in a position to give someone an asshole tattoo. Like I'm not necessarily like a tattoo kind of person. You know what I mean? Because it's distracting. If I'm okay, let's just think if you're intimate with somebody, right, and they've got like a nice, interesting tattoo, kind of cute, kind of funky. Okay, it adds to the experience. Sure. But there's some people where there's just so many tattoos that I don't know what you want me to do here. Am I here to do this particular thing, or do you want me to study you like you are a textbook? Do you know what I mean? But an asshole tattoo, that is. Also, I really don't know what they're trying to say.
So here's where the conversation went. So I said to her, well, when do people reveal that? Like, when do they say to their significant other, like, is it after dating a few months? Yeah. Is it is it the first date? You like sit down, listen, there's something I got to tell you. I got to level with you. I got a asshole tattoo. And also, then we started like talking about whether there are certain things that you would tattoo there. Like, would you use like the sun? There's like happy rays coming out in the middle of the sun. The asshole. Like what kind of stuff would you tattoo on that part of the body?
I mean, at the top of my head, I think the only sort of like smartish tattoo I could think of is very simple, like a little circle around the asshole and an arrow like leaning towards the asshole, and it says "wrong hole, motherfucker." That I could be like, okay, cool. I see what you're doing here, baby. That's all good. That makes sense. Holla at your boy. But I can't see anything else.
Carl says I got a W on each cheek, so it spells wow. And when you flip me around, it's mom.
Oh, Carl, you're a funny man. But I don't know why the word mom should come into any kind of sexual intercourse ever.
Simon reckons they use numbing gel around the asshole. You won't feel any pain. When I did my tat around my armpit area, they used it. It feels like a finger on my skin, but hurts like shit after. Ugh. But still, okay. I mean, I just can't imagine how undignified it is and how humiliating it is for both people involved. Like first of all, to be smearing the numbing gel on there. And then second of all, for this person to be like in that area. Close, like how close you have to get. It's just something, I don't know. I mean, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. Our bot says it's just skin at the end of the day, exaggerated price. If they fall for it, they get the clothespin. Oof.
So I have a friend who's also a tattoo artist. Yeah. And he did something very clever, and it gets him free drinks all the time. So he tattooed your name on his ass. And then he
Yes.
goes into the bars and he goes to all these women and he says, I bet you a drink or I bet you a jug that I have your name tattooed on my ass. And they're like, yeah, right. We'll see. I'm not even kidding. One of my friends is the manager of one of these bars in Melville, and they kicked him out
Because he was getting so many
he was
drinks.
getting so many free drinks.
Well, good for him.
I think that's good. That works. I like that. I like smart little. I like smart little. I've been scammed before, so you know. Sometimes when you get scammed to such a degree that you're like, oh my god, that was just awesome. Well done,
Yeah.
bravo.
Gareth, I have to ask, where did this conversation take place? Because I'd love to know how you stumbled upon this conversation. Was it in the tattoo studio?
No, no. I mean, I've never been to a tattoo studio. I wouldn't even know where the nearest one was. This girl is a friend of another girl who I know, and
okay,
we were all just talking, and she started talking about what she does for a living, and then it got onto that. So, I mean, it was a pretty wild conversation. I'll admit, this is not what I expected for what was it, Friday or whatever. So a couple of people in the comments section talking about these things. There's a famous porn star that has an octopus that is tattooed on her asshole that looks like it's crawling out of there. Now that would freak me the hell out.
Yeah,
I'd be
definitely.
totally freaked out. And
So just out of interest,
as you said just now, Mumsy, I mean, like, there's some people that just have too many of these things going on. Their whole body is like just too busy. You know, it's not necessary. Like you could have a couple, and I'm not going to tell people what to do because I don't have a single tattoo or piercing, and I'm happy with people having whatever they want. But I do think you could go overboard with these things. And some people, they obviously get addicted to it. And you do start looking like a prisoner or a sailor, because those are the only people who used to get tattoos are prisoners and sailors. And I mean, they all, everyone in the whole world has tattoos now, so it's not a big deal anymore. But I still think you've got to gashle, not like ningi.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, out of interest, do any of you, like Ryan, Gareth, do you guys have any tattoos?
No.
Yeah, I've got like a forearm tattoo and one here and one here. If I could, I would get like full sleeves, my back. Oh yeah.
My neck, my back, my pussy, and my crack.
The appropriateness of that was just spot on.
You know what's it's hilarious? I was at a family Easter thing, and this aunt of ours, she goes, "Oh, my neck." So my cousin, without missing a beat, goes, "My back, my pussy, and my
I actually had I don't know if you guys remember, there was a band called there was a group called Josie. It had Deleuze, it had Crazy Lou, Ishmael, and Bongani Fasi. So one of the members, so sadly he passed away in 2019, Crazy Lou, but he was one of my closest friends. I mean, like I've known him since like school days. So one day he calls me up. I think it was like 2 years before he passed, and he calls me. He's like, "Yo, mums, I just got a tattoo parlor. Do you want to come in and get a free tattoo?" So I'm like, "Oh, dude, awesome! I've thought about getting a tattoo, like a nice tasteful tattoo." So I said to him, "Can you just send me a link to the profile of the tattoo artist that you have?" Dude, he says to me, no, he's going to do the tattoo. And I said, "So how many tattoos have you done before?" And he says, "No, you'll be the first." And I was like, no, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
Me out. Right.
Then, as sneaky as he is, he calls me back 2 weeks later. He knows that it's about 10 o'clock, so he knows I've been drinking. He calls me up and he's like, "Hey, dude, what are you up to?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just having a drink at Rafiki's." He's like, "Okay, cool. Why don't you come through to the parlor? We'll just have a beer here so I can just show you around." So I'm like, "Okay, cool." So we get there, we have a beer, and then he's like, "No, like you get into a comedy show, and the comedian or the host kind of says, 'Okay, then now that I've closed the doors, I want to talk to you guys about Jehovah.'" You know what I mean? It was like one of those kind of moments, you know. So I get in, he locks the door, we're having a beer, and then he's like, "Okay, look, seriously, dude, like seriously, I'll give you a free tattoo. You don't have to pay whatever design you want." So somehow he convinces me. And in my head, I'm thinking, what's the easiest tattoo that no one could possibly fuck up? So I thought to myself, I'll just get Mumsy written in Morse code, right? Easy enough. Put it on the inside of my left thigh. No one's ever going to need to see it. When I go to auditions, they don't even have to ask the question, do you have visible tattoos, right?
Right.
So now I find how to spell Mumsy in Morse code. We write it down on some kind of paper. It didn't look professional, is what I'm saying. I just didn't think that anything that was going on made sense. And the kicker was, as he's actually trying to put together the tattoo, the pin thingamajiggy, he's struggling with it and I'm just looking at like the mechanism, and I take it from him. I'm like, hold on, doesn't it go like this? And that should have been the moment where I was like, no, this is not going to happen.
You carried on after that? This guy's completely incapable at this point. You shouldn't be subjecting yourself to this.
I know, I did. And the problem is,
you're a really good friend, but you're also a dumb asshole.
Oh no, I know that. I'm never going to tattoo my dumb asshole, but I definitely know that I messed up there. But the cool thing though is that so there was one really messed up part about it. I didn't actually know that ink could fall out of your skin. Yes. So he tattooed Mumsy, and then the second M, the ink fell out. So now I don't actually know what it says. It's like Malzy or something stupid like that. But I think it's like, given the only tattoo that I have on my body, it's kind of nice to kind of like think, okay, cool, this is like in memory of Crazy Lou. But at some point in the future, I'm gonna have to like freshen it up and come up with something.
Oh my god! You have to disguise it.
It's part of looking after it. That's otherwise it can get infected, and that's when the ink like falls up. That's why you have to like look after it for the first like week and a half, 2 weeks.
Okay, so can you imagine what is the process of looking after your asshole if you have an infection? Do you know what I mean? Like that would be something else. No, like I wouldn't like. I can't see myself like every 5 minutes just sitting there like, okay, this is.
One of the most beautiful things is when somebody has beautiful skin. Like they just have gorgeous skin. Like I'm talking about, especially like a girl who's got beautiful soft arms. She's got like lovely tan skin. She's just, that to me is so attractive. And you go and cover that up in tattoos. I think it diminishes the sexiness, not adds to it. I mean, obviously it's not the case. It's not the case for everyone, right? And I think if you are a really, really good looking human being, I think probably a tattoo can magnify that and make it even better. But I got to be honest with you. Like, if you've got beautiful skin, don't fuck with it. Don't mess it up. Don't go and color it in green and blue and purple and because honestly, Ryan, you know this. You've got tattoos.
Yeah,
there are tattoos and there are tattoos. Some of them just look cheap and nasty and shitty.
Yeah. My whole thing is
they fade really quickly and it looks bad, man. It looks bad.
My whole thing is, if you're gonna get tattoos, you must be able to spend money. Like I go for touch-ups all the time, just like to keep them looking fresh. But also I paid so much more than a lot of people do for like. I don't do those specials on tattoos. I paid the full price. People can't believe how much I pay for my tattoos, but I'm like, it's gonna be on you forever. So just pay the money. Don't go cheap on it.
I think we got lots of expenses to worry about in 2023. I don't know that these should be on our priority list, but it's not my decision. You go ahead and spend on what you want, dude. If it makes you happy, you do it. All right, listen, we got to get to Dr. Hanan. This is what we do on a Monday morning. He is, of course, our resident psychologist. He is also the man who runs none less than the Anxiety and Trauma Clinic in Johannesburg. Renowned psychologist, Dr. Hanan Bushkin. So let's talk to him about this Thabo Bester case, which is on everybody's mind at the moment. There isn't anyone. Doc, nice to see you.
Great to see you guys.
It's amazing how this situation with Thabo Bester has just grabbed everyone's attention. It's all that anyone last week was talking about, and I think it's still a big deal. So we were wondering why someone like Dr. Nandipa, who we understand was a smart, kind of upwardly mobile and seemingly quite successful person. She was in good networks. She had a great job. She had a great brain. She was the kind of person who shouldn't have been in a situation where she was with this criminal, but she got caught up with this guy. And the whole attraction to bad boys thing is regular as a conversation with me and some of the girls I know. What is this? Do you think she's also criminally inclined, like it's a Bonnie and Clyde type of thing? I mean, what do you read from this? Why would someone throw in with a crook?
There are many reasons why women are attracted to many women are attracted to bad boys. There's sociological reasons, there's psychological reasons. The one of them could be social status. The bad boys represent higher order on a hierarchy level. So women feel that if they attach themselves to that, they feel more protected, safer, because they have somebody strong who represents a masculine energy. A lot of women like bad boys because they feel that it's rebellious against the social structure.
Right.
Bad boys can kind of carry them with excitement and fun. And there's incredible emotional intensity also about bad boys. But I think the problem, the overarching problem, is with the title Bad Boys. Because if we call somebody a bad boy, it has almost like a cool connotation to it. It's kind of fun. It's exciting. It's out there. It's adventurous. I mean, and we all want adventure in our lives. You know, how many people would say to you, "It feels like I wake up every morning and I'm on the hamster wheel. I'm waking up, going to work, going to bed. Waking up, going to work, going to bed. Maybe on the weekends I'm having fun." But one thing that I see in my practice is that people crave adventure. They crave fun. They crave something new. They crave stepping out of comfort zone, which the everyday mundane things, adulting, doesn't allow them to do. And these bad boys are almost an analogy for, you know, come into the backseat of my car, let's go on an adventure. And these women buy that. But the problem is with the title bad boys. How about we call some of these men psychopaths? Suddenly it's not so cool anymore. Suddenly imagine, to be quite cool going on an adventure with a bad boy, it's not so cool anymore going on an adventure with a psychopath, somebody that could potentially hurt you. Another reason maybe that is worth noting is a lot of women grow up in turmoil, whether it's trauma growing up with parents, with siblings, maybe outside of the home. And what happens is they become addicted to familiarity. So to give you an analogy, if you take a young girl and she goes through an abusive household, abusive father, abusive uncle, physically, emotionally, sexually, naturally that becomes familiar to her. So now she's 20 odd years old. She goes into a social gathering, 100 men. 99 of those men would treat her like a princess, but there'll be one guy that will absolutely abuse and control, the so-called bad boy. And who will she naturally pick? Well, she'll pick that guy, not because that's what she wants, but because that's what's familiar. And I always tell people, you don't attract what you want, you attract what is familiar to you. So you don't create what you want, you create what you know. So people just naturally keep on repeating familiarities. And they'll all be sitting in my office going, I want somebody kind, I want somebody loving and caring, consistent and predictable and trustworthy. But they'll all keep on going for the same thing, which is familiar. So in terms of this story, maybe there was an element in his personality that was familiar to you, that was very attractive.
Well, I mean, in this case, she is claiming he was abusive, that he may or may not have like actually physically harmed her, but emotionally, clearly. Let's look at other examples then where the one partner gets carried away by the excitement of being involved with a criminal or with someone who's, whose life is dangerous. There are these women who are genuinely like turned on by the fact that there is perpetual danger and insecurity, which is counterintuitive. Most women, and again, this is a huge generalization, but most women crave security, safety, the feeling of protection, the feeling of being looked after, the feeling of, this is a kind of guy who in a bad situation can be relied upon. That's what we've been told for, thousands of years of human evolution. So why would it be that some women are drawn to the danger?
Yeah, but you got to remember, what is safety? The truth is, every single person on earth gravitates towards being safe. That is what has kept human beings alive for the last 200,000 years. But what is the definition of safety? The number one definition of safety is familiarity. The brain has been designed in such a way that it gravitates towards safety, and it knows that safety comes with what you know, because you know how to interact with it, you know what to do with it, you understand the language, you understand how to speak that language, you know how to manipulate it, and you
Hmm.
feel comfortable and safe with what's familiar. So, by the way, these so-called bad boys are not attractive to everybody. They're attractive to the people that find that one as a sense of adventure, but more importantly, as a sense of familiarity. If you take a girl or a woman grew up in a stable, consistent, predictable household has given her an internal sense of safety, these
Hmm.
bad boys are just not attractive to her. She will not go for it. She will not find that attractive on all levels. So in this case, he was perhaps emotionally abusive, but
Yeah.
he represented safety as well and security because there was that masculine strength as well as, I'm sure, familiarity to her.
In other words, I'm just kind of trying to distill this. If you're a guy who finds yourself attracted to a girl who likes bad boys, you should be the one to put on the brakes, because you should realize, like, this girl comes from probably an unhappy or insecure or unstable background. So actually, it doesn't matter how hot she is, stay away, because she is dangerous herself.
As a matter of fact, that's really interesting because a lot of these guys that come here and these so-called bad boys that come to see me in my office, I tell them that the girl that's naturally going to be attracted to your character. Remember, I turn to these bad boys and some of them are very insightful and smart, and I say,
Hmm.
on a scale of 0 to 10, where do you see yourself? 0 means I add no value, 10 means I add incredible value. And some of
Hmm.
these bad boys that carry or have this incredible insight will say, I'm a 3. So I say, if you're a 3, well, who do you think you're attracting? Who do you think is attracted to you? Do you think a 4, a 5, a 6, a 10? And they'll understand that a 3 attracts a 3. That's the way it works across
Okay.
the board. And I'll ask you, if you do you want a 3 in your life? Well, if you don't want a 3, you better become a 10. If you want a 10, whatever you want to attract, that's who you become, and you can control that. So, and what ends up happening with these bad boys when they meet these girls that are attracted to that, it makes it much more difficult for them to shift the puzzle piece, to shift themselves, because you surround yourself with people that enable who you are, because again, it doesn't require you to change. So bad boys naturally surround themselves with people that are find that okay, find that familiar, enable that, and don't and actually stop you from changing in the first place.
Wow. All right. I'm going to let Mumsy and Ryan ask you if they've got any questions, but I'm interested that a 3 should attract a 3. You know, you kind of, whatever you're pitching at is what you're going to score at. I hadn't thought of that before. So if you consider yourself an 8 or a 9, then that's what you should be aiming to be in a partnership with, right?
Well, Gareth, it's not what you're pitching; it's who you are that will attract the
Oh, right.
opposite side. So I could be pitching a 10, and for a one-night stand, I might pull it off. But if I really want to get into a relationship, quickly, the person just scratches beneath the surface and sees that I'm a 2, and they run a
Hmm.
mile. So it's not what I'm pitching. For a one-night stand, yeah, you can deceive someone, but for a long-term
Wow.
relationship, who you are will attract the same caliber right back.
Sure.
I find I find it very interesting because I think who was it? It was Chris Rock who said, if you ain't shit, if your man ain't shit, you ain't shit, right? But the reality is that I think a lot of people actually do want to. Okay, so here's a question I've been thinking about for a while. I don't consider myself a bad boy. I mean, I ride motorbikes, and immediately people just assume that I'm a bad boy just because of the image that it projects. But I also want to be able to be in a position where if somebody is on a journey of self-discovery and they're trying to like fix certain things about themselves, sometimes I find myself in a relationship where for so long people have been telling me, oh, don't look at someone's past. Their past shouldn't define who they are now, blah, 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 blah. How do you think it's even possible to be with someone who has been in such a insane past and try and help them out of that situation if it's something that you're not even familiar with? Because I've been in that situation a few times and I really don't even know how to navigate that.
Yeah, it's not possible. There's no ways. There's no ways. You should you shouldn't get into a relationship with someone in order to turn them into something else. Because if they turn into something else, what I see a lot of the time happening is they change the partner and then they're no longer interested. So they turn them into their ideal fantasy, but when they become that ideal fantasy, suddenly the reality is that it's not what I want. So you turn somebody from a square to a triangle, and they become a triangle, and then you feel like, I'm not attracted to a triangle. I want a square. And then you ditch them and you go look for a square. So never be with somebody who you want to change into something else. You either the dance works and you want to grow together and shift and change and mold yourselves in the relationship together with a long-term vision, or do not change anybody, because people don't change on their you do not change anybody. You can't control that. You know, when I see patients that actually want to come to my office and they pay a lot of money to see me and they want to change, probably 70% of them don't put in the required effort.
Yeah.
Because as much as people want to change, they still find it incredibly difficult to change. So if you can't change yourself most of the time, can you imagine trying to change someone else? It's not something that you can control. You should be investing into.
And so, I mean, look, obviously, I think that's very, very sensible advice, that you're not going to change anyone. You're also not qualified necessarily to change someone, even if you've got a savior complex, even if you're the one who thinks that by helping people, you're doing something good for the world. But if as you say, Doc, that, you know, you can't really change people, then are those people just fucked for life? Are they just, is there no way they can be made to improve, to raise themselves from like a 3 to a 4 or whatever?
Definitely. I'm a big believer that people can shift if they put in the necessary effort. I really do. My oldest patient was 94 years old, and she had the insight and the foresight and the willingness to change, and she did. So you can change, but you can't change someone else. You want to need to change yourself. So you want to ask yourself, when I look at the world around me, is it the kind of value that I extract that will make me proud of who I am in 50 years' time? So when I look at my friends, when I look at my family, when I look at my career, when I look at my sense of purpose, financial security, when I look at my surroundings, my environment, the car that I drive, the home that I live in, is that the world that I want for the next 50 years? And if the answer is no, then the onus is on you, not government, not Eskom, not your moms, not your girlfriend, not your boyfriend, not your husband, not your child to change it. The onus is on you. You take responsibility. People always talk about freedom. I want freedom. I want rights. But let me tell you what freedom and rights come from or come with. That's the one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is responsibility. Adulting is a responsibility. Adulting means I have certain rights to drive a car. But guess what you have on the other side of the coin? You have responsibility to other drivers on the road too. You can't have freedom and rights without responsibility. So you want a bigger house, you want more purpose, you want a better relationship, you want financial security, you have the right, but you also have the responsibility to take charge. Be an adult.
That's bloody interesting, because of course people don't like the corollary. They don't like the responsibility part. They want the right, but none of the responsibility.
Exactly.
What percentage of... Sorry. Carry on, Doc. Interrupted you.
No, I'm done.
So okay, so I'll give you an example. Like I was in a fairly toxic relationship, and I suggested that me and her go to therapy, and I think within 10 minutes she couldn't even deal with it. Like she just couldn't deal with being honest, being open in that kind of space. And it's unfortunate because that person is going to be in my life pretty much for the rest of my life, because she's the mother of my daughter. But for me, in that situation, I was like, okay, well, you know, if you're not on board, I still need to try to figure out my vibe. I booked myself into a Kesso. We did dialectical behavior therapy. After that, I started getting into like family constellations and limiting beliefs to try and really figure out something about myself. The problem is, though, is that I have a tendency sometimes to get on the high horse when I learn something, and it's very difficult for me to kind of shrug that off. You know what I mean? And it can come off as a bit arrogant, like, oh, I've been doing this, and almost like suggestive, right? Like I've been working on this. Maybe it's something that you should look into. And then I stopped doing that and actually found myself in more relationships. The more that I was talking about all these things that I was actually trying to explore, the more that I was actually getting into relationships with people who are doing that kind of thing. How do you how do you think that what do you think is a safe way of suggesting to people like, hey, you need therapy? Because there's also very negative stigmas around therapy and all of that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, I see again many people that are sent here by their parents, by their kids, by siblings, by their spouses that don't actually want to be here. They almost like are forced to be in therapy because their partner or their loved one sent them. And I ask them a simple question. I say, how happy are you with your life currently? Just be honest. Don't even answer to me. Answer to yourself. How happy are you with your current situation, with your health, financial security, family, friends, romantic, your sense of purpose and financial security? How happy are you? And if people say to me, I'm happy, then it's not my place to change that. But if they are not happy, I say then it's your responsibility to take the next step and to make a move. Life is not static, and you have the option to actually do something about it. You don't have to stay where you are. You can actually make a move, and you can be better if you want to. If that's something that you desire, you can definitely do it. But you can't make somebody move unless they want to. But the carrot is you can make your life better.
Love that.
Doc, thank you. I'm afraid that's all we got time for this morning. And have a good week. 5 days that we've got to squeeze everything into this week. So it's a little bit better than trying to squeeze it into 4 days. Let's be productive and let's get cracking, even though we might not have power 24/7. We've got things to do. Good luck. Right. I assume that's why you're in your car, right?
Exactly. Loadshedding. The office is too dark.
All right, thanks, Doc. Cheers. There's Dr. Hanan, and we will check in with him next week. Same thing. All right, we'll be back in a moment or two with Mumsy and Ryan and you and I, and we've got lots more
Leigh-Ann.
to get into.
Leigh-Ann is jumping on.
Oh, wow. This is exciting. We'll find out where she was.
Today you can monitor your geyser, which traditionally only was an element that heated water for you. Now you can manage that device, where 5 years back it was literally impossible to do it. So if you look at IoT and the opportunities that created, IoT is the system of connected devices. And those devices are technology devices, sensors. You would have learned and heard about sensors. And the connectivity thereof brings interoperability and interactiveness between those elements that communicates wirelessly. So the one distinguishable characteristic of the Internet of Things is that it communicates most of the time wirelessly, and more importantly, without a human intervention. So that's the difference between information technology and the Internet of Things, is that the human intervention has been limited.
Thanks for listening to Unbundled, brought to you by Catalytic, a series that aims to demystify technology so that you can make smarter decisions for your business. Remember that you can also listen to all of the episodes on the Cliff Central app or website. And for added convenience, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen. And if you're looking for help with communications tools in your business, please visit catalytic.co.za.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
The price of cars. So I don't know if you've been looking at the price of cars, but obviously the price of cars has been going up for a long time now. And it's getting to a point where a lot of people are getting concerned. Do you think the price of cars going up, or the price of cars in general, do you think it's going to be problematic at some point? Do you think it's getting to a point where it's, not feasible?
So there's this one theory that during the pandemic, car manufacturers obviously had the silicon chip problem, the silicon chip shortage problem. Supply was at an all-time low. Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
There we
We're
go.
back.
On, and we are live. Yes, sir. It is Monday morning. It's the 17th of April. You got Mumsy, you got Ryan, and we are busy this morning. There's a lot to get into. We had Dr. Hanan on just a moment ago. He was telling us all about how we can avoid either being the bad boy or how you can avoid them if you're the girl who's into the bad boys, because it doesn't sound like a healthy situation. So, I mean, you riding bikes, that's pretty cool. I didn't know this about you.
Yeah, that's mad sick.
Yeah, so it's actually, I mean, it wasn't my choice. What happened is in 2007, I was in a car accident. After, I mean, so we had, there was a show, it was a show called Blacks Only, produced by David Gao. I think it was, 2007. And yeah, it was a really, really great show, great lineup. I think that might have been the last time that I saw Trevor Noah before he went to the States. And after the show, we went to, there was a place called Billy the Bums, because I thought, I wanted to like relax a little bit. Billy the Bums turned out to be just shocking, because like there was I think at the time I was like in my 20s, and there was this like 45-year-old woman who was just like, I don't know, we just hit it off, but then she pulled into me so fast that her teeth bit my lip. And I actually started crying. So she's kissing me while I'm crying. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. This is the most emasculating thing. I said to my friend, we need to leave. So we're driving back. He hadn't had much to drink. We're going down Bowling Avenue. As you come around the bend of Bowling Avenue, just before like where the police station is, there's a stretch of road where there's like an island in the middle. But there was a car coming head on to us in our lane. So we couldn't really move. We just had to like decelerate. So what I did is I was in the passenger seat strapped in, and we just broke as much as we could, and then it was a head-on collision. But because of the inertia, my foot literally just like went under the dash and snapped my tibia and my fibula. Now, obviously at that time, like, life is starting, you're in your 20s, you're trying to build your career. I had to get around, and I was only learning how to drive at that time. And then I just thought, I need to get around. It's easier for me to just get a scooter. So I got myself a scooter, and it's just crazy. Like, you don't have to worry about parking. You don't have to worry about traffic. You have to worry about wind and other drivers and all of the other stuff.
Fair to say, like, especially in Cape Town, that's quite useful, right?
Yeah. Until winter comes and it's like raining all over the place, and then you really feel like an idiot just driving around, and people are like in the comfort of their cars listening to Gareth on the radio. And here I am. But
do you have a bike, or do you have like a little stututu? Like what's the story?
Yeah, no. I started with a VUCA. It was a 90cc VUCA scooter. Then that was when I was still in Joburg. When I moved to Cape Town, I upgraded to a 150cc VUCA scooter, the retro, red and black, looked pretty cool. Right. And then I'd saved quite a bit of cash, and I also got a payout from the road accident fund. And then I upgraded to a Harley Davidson Sportster Iron 883 and a Honda Integra. But ironically enough, I had to sell the Harley Davidson so I could survive for the 3 months that I went to Russia. And then the borders got closed and everything just got messed up.
Yeah, I remember that wild story yours about Russia and that Russian girl you were dating, and we all looked her up, and she's like super famous.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, like, she was legit super. I never noticed it because I don't think I followed her story as much. I do remember Jay Leno mentioning her or something like that, but it was just like a blip. You know what I mean? I wasn't like, oh, hey, this is something I'll remember.
Carl says, I bet when you broke your foot, you felt really stupid for crying about your lip.
Carl, if you could have seen what that kiss was like, I mean, it was the craziest thing. The foot, yeah, no, you're right, 100%, spot on.
Good morning, ass. How are you?
Oh, I'm alive.
Thank God. We were trying to call you, and Ryan was phoning your phone just before the show, and I was listening to it ring and thinking, well, she's probably just sleeping.
Well, that's an attitude change, because usually you think I'm dead. So well done for thinking positively, firstly. Secondly, I wasn't dead, but I mean, imagine I was. I would have gone another hour before anybody else found out.
What would you like us to do? Like, what would you like us to tell your family? Like, if you haven't replied for the whole morning, and should we call the morgue? I mean, like,
It's
what
a
would you like?
serious thought.
No.
Shame, my poor brother. He always takes the brunt of the bad news of the family.
Aye.
I'm wondering if maybe we should juggle it up and maybe phone someone different in the family.
Mm.
Who would be the right person? I mean, like, how do you want us to respond? Because you are completely unpredictable, and who knows?
Yeah,
and we've got to have some kind of a place.
To be
maybe
fair,
some yeah.
There were some people in the comments that were asking about that. They were like, "What would have happened if Leigh-Ann didn't wake up? What was the problem?"
I think I need to think like a little bit out of the box, like maybe some sleepy uncle in Australia where people only get to hear another 24 hours later or something like that.
Yeah, where he answers the call, and he goes like this. He goes, "Hello, hi,
yeah.
is that
Hello.
Leigh-Ann's Uncle Mike?"
Yeah, what the fuck do you want?
Listen, Uncle Mike, we just wanted to call and tell you we've been trying to get hold of Leigh-Ann all morning.
Yeah, it's not my fucking problem, is it? What do you want?
Well, listen, we can't get hold of her, and we were just wondering. We thought like she left you as next of kin on our call sheet. So we were like, well, maybe we should let you know that she isn't responding. She might be dead, Uncle Mike.
Look, over here, it is already 2:30 in the morning. Can you just fuck off and maybe call me next week and we can try to figure this out then? I'm pretty sure I'm not the closest next of kin. Plus, I haven't seen the bitch in like 5 fucking years. So just leave me alone.
Is that kind of the response that you get?
Yes. And also because he, at least he's not shocked, which was my main concern. I don't like shocking people. Mm-hmm. And he's used to people dying of all sorts of things. Spiders, snakes, being kicked in the guts by a kangaroo.
I've just had to suck the spider venom out of someone's ass. And I'm not really interested in Leigh-Ann all over sleeping. She's a useless fucking bit. I've told her 1 million times, get her life in order, and she's not fucking listening. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go and deal with someone who's just been stung by a stingray, and then I'll call you back
later. Oh, gosh, if only we could all just take it in our stride like the Australians do,
I mean, that's actually, I think that's pretty polite for an Australian.
No, that is. I mean, he gave you the time of day, even though it was the night for him.
Right, exactly.
But it came down to switching my alarm time from going to the studio or staying at home. There's a big difference.
Can you imagine how you would struggle with something like daylight savings time? You'd be a complete disaster. I mean, in America, and there are apparently a bunch of states that are trying to scrap daylight savings time because it confuses so many people, and people are so sick of it being used as an excuse.
I actually do quite well with it because I have clients in the UK. So like at the moment, I know we're only an hour apart.
Well, how about your clients here? How about your clients here? How about you start with us?
This is what an alarm. This is what the alarm settings on a person with ADHD looks like.
Right? You get every 15 minutes. Yeah.
So why do you have a 16 hours 30 alarm?
Well, for all sorts of things. I mean, I can put the kettle on at 14:55 and forget that it's on. Forget that I was making tea.
This is why you're going to die. You're going to have to send your uncle from Australia. Burn the house down. All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about this morning. Apparently, there's. So Ryan says to me this morning, Leigh-Ann's got the story about a cave woman. So I suddenly thought, oh, wow, they've discovered some like prehistoric woman in a cave and she's still alive. And, like that story, Stig of the Dump, when we were at school, there's this cave woman and she's living in the modern era. And it turns out it's not a cave woman. It's a woman who spent 500 days living alone in a cave, but she's not some like early man. She's a woman from now. So she
didn't
all the
emerge
time-
with man testicles and man cock.
No,
She went
no,
in
exactly.
voluntarily.
Right.
I thought the same thing though, Gareth. I was like, oh, what? Was she stuck under rubble after an earthquake?
Yeah.
How did she survive for 500 days? Was she eating slugs?
Yeah.
But no, she went in voluntarily 500 days ago. Now, can
I
you
ask
believe?
before you
Yeah,
even
yeah.
tell the story, like, isn't life hard enough? Isn't life, we were talking at the beginning of the show about load shedding and interest rate repayments on bonds and stuff like that. And here's this woman whose life is clearly not, she needs it to be more difficult. So she wants to go and live in a cave for 500 days. Mumsy, this is ridiculous, right?
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me.
And then this coming from someone who was stuck in Russia for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a cave, but yeah, I mean, I understand that. I just don't understand why someone would voluntarily choose to want to live in a cave.
Yeah, I mean, and if you think about it, how long ago does COVID feel for us?
Yesterday.
Because she went in November 20. Let's have a look.
21, isn't it? That video is up.
Yeah, let's watch this video.
Let's take a look. Can I talk while
I'm gonna stop it so you can tell us what the hell's happening. She looks terrible. To have spent that time in a cave, obviously you're gonna look like shit. But she
don't
doesn't
be judgmental here.
She doesn't look like she had a happy time. She's not walking out of there like somebody who's done something amazing and they're feeling great about it.
It wasn't the point really. Okay, Gareth. So firstly, she can't open her eyes properly because she hasn't been sensitized to light for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, this was all part of a big experiment. Okay, I just need to get back first to the timeline. So she went in on the 20th of November, 2021. That was 3 months before Russia even invaded Ukraine. She had no idea of that. She's an elite sportswoman, an extreme mountaineer, and she entered the cave to learn more about the human mind and body, how it deals with extreme solitude and deprivation. So there were a whole lot of scientists who got together from the universities of Almeria, Granada, and Murcia, who kept in touch through these special limited messaging technology platforms, because she was not to be contacted. So once she went in, she agreed that she would not be told about any family deaths. She agreed that she would not be told about any world emergencies. She's now broken the record for the longest time that a person has spent alone in a cave. She had to be called up eventually because she lost track of time. She lost track of time after 65 days. And keeping sane was a real issue for herself. For her, it was she tried to pass the time calmly and purposefully by reading, writing, drawing, knitting. But yeah, the results are yet to come out. This was just the big reveal of her coming out. The biggest thing that she suffered was an invasion of flies. They laid their larvae all over her cave. And so she was enveloped by these flies.
Oh my God!
I'm hearing no positives here.
Exactly.
So that's the thing, right? We don't know the outcome of the research yet.
What do you
was
mean?
hoping.
It was a total disaster. It was a stupid idea from beginning to end. There is no positive. What research do you want? Do you want to know how many flies laid their maggots inside her skin? Do you want to know how blind she is? It's a fucking disaster. This woman should not be allowed to make decisions about her own health going forward. She is completely irresponsible and should be put under curatorship. That's the result.
So your reaction is exactly why I thought the media have screwed this up totally, or the people who put together this experiment. They shouldn't have shown some woman emerging from a cave just so. No. Because she looks mad, right? This whole experiment seems mad. They should have let us know once they'd released this amazing new information about how we deal with ourselves alone.
No, we should not give people like this attention. It's just, I'm terribly sorry, but in the old days of like true human suffering, and it by no means is something that I hearken back to or think was great. I think it's great to have running water, occasional electricity, be able to eat fresh food rather than rotten food. I think all of that is quite damn fucking good. So I'm not complaining about live in 2023. But like, I looked at Ryan's face and Mumsy's face while you were busy talking about the fly maggots and the dark of this dank little cave, and then she can't see for half the time, and I just thought it's unnecessary for her to put us under the pressure of having to hear her sad sob story, because we've all got enough to worry about. And frankly, I think she might not have a very difficult life. I know she's a mountaineer and she's an adventurer and all that stuff, but you kind of have a responsibility to humankind to not go and look for trouble. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. No, absolutely. And the other thing that got me was we've been through COVID as a planet, where people have had to be solitary. A lot of them have been solitary alone without any contact to the outside world. Some of them being, locked in physically by police. Do we really need to go to the ends of the earth to find out what people do when they're alone and how they react? No, we've got living proof already of so many people who've been locked down in COVID and in poverty.
That's exactly why I'm saying she's learned nothing new. She's taught the rest of the world nothing new. This was all, it's like those people who say, I'm going to go on a bicycle ride from Cape Town to Johannesburg, and I want you to sponsor me because I'm going to help this orphanage or whatever. Why don't you just go around asking for money? Why do you have to get on your bike and ride from Cape Town to Johannesburg? You think we give a shit about you going for a ride? So you want us to basically pay for your hobby, and then we must help a charity. Why don't we just help a charity? Why do you have to be involved with your stupid bicycle or your cave?
Look, I'm going to hold a little bit of hope and give them the benefit of the doubt. If amazing research comes out of this, then so be it.
I will bet you any amount of money. No amazing research is going to be discovered here. I promise you. What? Someone's going to discover that she's got terrible lungs because of the bat dung, and she can't breathe properly.
No, man, it's about being alone with yourself.
And then the poor old Spanish government, who probably are paying for her health, are going to have to shell out cash because they're going to have to keep this crazy woman alive for longer. Listen, there's probably a good reason she went into this cave in the first place, is nobody wants her.
Wow.
Oh.
I think if she, what would have made this whole experiment a little sexier? She should have partnered up with David Blaine. Do you know what I mean? Like, he is the dude for endurance challenges. You know what I mean? He's got 6 world records. You know what I mean? Like, I think that would have made much more sense.
Didn't David Blaine live in a box on a stick for like a whole year or something?
Over the sea or something.
Oh my God, how horrible. Let me tell you again. You get this miracle, this unbelievable opportunity to live on planet Earth, to be a living creature. You're sentient, you're conscious. You have the opportunity to laugh and to play and to have fun and to learn. And what do? You go and live on a stick for a year, or you climb into a cave for 2 years? What kind of sick people are these? I think, honestly, you do something like this, you should be put on an island with all the other crazies, and we should just watch what happens. And we keep.
Oh, you mean
cameras
Australia?
Well, it's not a continent. By the way, your uncle.
Fuck you, Leigh-Ann. What are you trying to say about Australia? What the hell's wrong with you? Are you being rude? Don't make me come out of the wildlife park here and come and sort you out. Bring a kangaroo to kick you to death or something horrible like that.
That's the message I just got this morning.
I'm sure.
If you go back 1,000 years, right, and you bring if you say to these people, we're going to bring you into a civilization where there's running water in every home, there's electricity, this is the best time of your life to be alive. They'll give up their life tomorrow.
Instantly. I can promise you now, even the richest king in Africa or Europe or Asia, at any point in history, if you said to them you could have the things that we all take for granted now, TV, the internet, warm blankets. I mean, clothes, for God's sake. You know how hard it was to find clothes? Everything had to be handmade in those days. Now you can go buy a t-shirt for 20 Rand if you're smart enough. Let me tell you, there's no one from history who, given the option of being around now, being around then, would choose then. No one.
Never.
Not even the richest, most self-satisfied, powerful human being. Genghis Khan would say to you, I'm going to stop the raping and the killing if I could just have some running water. I'm telling you. So when I see people like this woman in the cave, I love you, Leigh-Ann, but these we must stop giving these people attention. This person irritates me on some fundamental level. I'm like, what are you wasting your existence doing this stupid stuff? 500 days. Okay, that's more than a year that this crazy nutcase,
Year and a half.
She put herself into the most horrible situation voluntarily, this crazy person. And then she also wants us to all clap and applaud when she comes out of the cave. The best thing she could have done is not go into the cave in the first place. She must have responsibilities. She must have family. She must have friends. She must have something to do in her life so that she doesn't feel like she could just check out for 500 days. What nonsense is this?
So on that note, on Friday, I'm taking part in this experiment where I'm going into a gold mine, an unused gold mine, for 500 days. I was kind of hoping, by way of introduction, I was kind of hoping that this would have served a purpose in you providing me some support.
Now you know how. Well, in case you weren't clear on how I feel about it, do you want me to repeat myself? Oh, wait. Here's your Uncle Mike.
What are you, fucking crazy? What's wrong with you, you stupid woman? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to lose your phone number. I want you to lose mine. I never want to talk to you again, family or fucking not.
I kind of feel like that guy, my uncle in Australia, would make a good motivational coach for people who just like either can't get up in the morning or can't get their homework done or can't get to gym. Some app.
Listen, I'll tell you something. People like me, I don't respond to positive reinforcement. I don't respond when people say, well done, that was really great. You know, we succeeded in this and this. And I don't respond to that stuff. I'm the kind of person who responds to negative reinforcement. So if I do something really, really well and you go, it was okay. That drives me crazy. And I just, the next time I just want to do it 10 times better.
Yeah.
And if you say to me after I've not done the greatest job, you're like, well, you really fucked that one up. You're a completely useless waste of space. I would be like, got to come back double as hard. So I respond to negative reinforcement. I think your uncle in Australia we should talk to him rather than Dr. Hanan.
Coach.
He's a life coach. He doesn't even know it.
Absolutely. And I actually spoke to Dr. Hanan in our personal capacity. And I've been looking for an executive functioning coach, right?
All right.
Long story behind that. But he said to me, Leigh-Ann, please, when you look for someone like this, don't find a sympathetic blah, blah. And I cut him off and I said, no, I'm looking for someone who'll kick my ass.
Mm-hmm.
And so my uncle in Australia would be perfect.
I know your uncle in Australia, but I mean, I don't think that the time difference is going to really, he's going to be so grouchy and grumpy. He's
going to be getting me up at 1 a.m.
What are you doing in bed? Anyway, listen, what do you respond to, Mumsy? Positive or negative reinforcement?
Oh, it's a tricky one. I think because I have selective hearing, I think in a relationship I respond to positive reinforcement. But if it comes to like work, negative reinforcement, like just get shit done. You know what I mean? But in a relationship, like, flattery will get you everywhere.
Well, Style Native Consulting says honest reinforcement is what we need. Maybe that's right. It's like halfway between. It's honest reinforcement. I have a client, says B, who started a therapy for people. You live in a dark room for 2 to 4 days, sensory deprivation, very good for anxiety and self-growth.
Wow.
This chick went too far with the cave thing. Yeah, I completely agree. Well, I mean, listen, there are all kinds of new and novel and interesting ways of kind of breaking out of anxiety or depression or lack of performance. Yeah, people are looking for things. And I'll tell you what, the last thing you want to do is go into a cave for 500 days. This is a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
Remember, for me, sorry, I think it's just weird that she was in a cave with possibly bats and she didn't catch her own version of COVID. Like, that's the thing that's baffling me right now.
Yeah, she emerged with a unique strain of something and killed the rest of the world with whatever she caught.
Maybe that's the research that's going to come out of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things you can catch in a cave.
I also want to make this point that Carl's making. He says, imagine those Chilean miners who were stuck underground hearing this story. It's like she's throwing it in their face. Exactly.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good comment.
And also imagine
South Africa,
emerging.
A lot of these miners who get trapped underground, I'm sure they don't find it very entertaining that this woman thinks it's a fun way to spend your time.
Yeah, I mean, there are people that are being held captive right now.
Yeah.
In Josef Fritzl's basement and other parts of Europe, who are they were not used to light. Remember, they even changed like skin tone. There are people held captive right now who are giving birth to their captors' grandchildren, and they're going to come out and think, "What the hell did this woman do? Is she making a fool of us?"
To change the subject slightly, we've spoken about how, there's certain things, and I don't know when last you worked in a corporate environment, Mumsy, but like there's certain things you just don't do at work, especially with the work microwave or the work kitchen. For example, we used to say that, the one thing that's outlawed is a beef and onion pie from the garage. It's just the most disgusting. You warm that
like
shit up.
A tuna casserole or
You're not allowed to, because you see our little kitchenette is right outside the studio now. So if you put anything in that microwave, it's going to make both the offices at the bottom and the studio smell. And that's not a great thing. And, you can't get rid of like the beef and onion pie smell. It takes days to get that out.
Smoked haddock pie.
Oh, God. Let me tell you something. Those garage pies, it's not beef. That's not beef. It's
Because grown in a cave.
Well, because it's in a pie. Who opens it up to check what's in the pie? They could put anything in there. They could put like old bits of hoof into the pie, and you wouldn't know any better. So do not do that. But apparently, there's this woman who has revealed that she fooled everyone at her workplace into thinking that the office manager had a phobia about microwaves.
Yeah, lots of office shenanigans going on. I don't know if you have a video there.
I got it right now. Listen to this.
Yeah, so let's hear her story.
Several weeks convincing everybody in the agency that I worked at that the office manager was phobic of the microwave. It just kind of happened out of nowhere and then got out of control. We'd been standing in the break room talking, and then somebody came in, and then they opened the microwave and he just left. And then the guy at the microwave looked at me and said, "What's his problem?" And then it just came out of my mouth, "Oh, Mark's phobic of the microwave." So then that guy went and told somebody else, and then people started coming up to me and asking me about it. And I said, the office manager doesn't want to talk about it. And I just kind of said that he had a really bad experience with a microwave in the 80s. So then from then on, nobody would touch the microwave when he was in the break room. We would all just stand there. People would be holding their food, but they wouldn't want to do it when the office manager was there. And then it would get really uncomfortable. And I had so much fun. And then one day the office manager came into my office and was like, "Why did you tell everyone that I'm afraid of the microwave?" The only thing I could say was because the opportunity came up and I took it. I also told everyone he did musical theater, but he didn't.
I mean, for starters, she's really irritating. So I would.
Yo, that's the first thing I was gonna say, man. Yo.
She kind of gives
like I wanted to like tell the office manager. I mean, if I worked with someone like that, it would take me about 10 minutes before I tried to pile her into the microwave and put it on for 3 hours.
But what it started was a whole feed of people talking about what they did, what they've done in the office before, like office pranks gone to the absolute nth degree.
Are you still allowed to do office pranks? Because I'm afraid that the workplace has become kind of rule bound and serious.
Yeah.
You can't really joke around with colleagues like you might have 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I'm not being boring, but this is, the HR departments have taken over and they've really made it very dreary. I mean, do you agree, Mumsy? Because you've worked in office.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, like, the thing is, there's so many things that so many people are just so sensitive about these days that HR are just adding in layers and layers and layers and layers of straight up minutia, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't do this, you can't say that, you can't approach this person like
absolutely.
that. And on top of that, you've got this stress of all these companies trying to make much more profit, especially after the post-COVID hangover. So it's not really the best time to be doing pranks and cracking jokes. However, this is the time that we need it the most. You know what I mean? This is actually when we need it.
I would love catch-22.
I'd love it to become more widespread and for people to have more fun again, because the workplace has become so rule bound and so strict and so serious, and you can't trigger this person because you don't know what you've got to use this kind of terminology, and you shouldn't joke because if someone doesn't find it funny, they'll find it super offensive, and you just like you're going to be in trouble a lot of the time.
Yeah,
and I don't think
we now know that putting your penis into someone's drink at the office party is no longer a joke, right?
Yeah.
And that you could probably go to prison for it.
And that was the only reason I used to go to office parties.
My question is, when was it a joke?
Yeah. So some of the comments are exactly to that point. Some of these comments. My favorite part of the story is that your entire office was respectful enough not to trigger his phobia. I mean, like someone else said, if this was in my office, he would have come into work and his entire cubicle would have been surrounded by open microwaves. And then some people got serious. True story. I still have a scar in my hand from a microwave in the 80s.
Oh, wow.
My mom still has that ancient microwave. It feels like she chose it over me.
Have you ever seen the office pranks?
That's exactly
yeah. There's like compilations of them on YouTube, but as you said, today you could never do that stuff. Like, he put a stapler in jelly. He moved that dude's like entire desk and office into the bathroom.
That's cool.
That's funny stuff.
Some people says everyone at my work keeps asking the regional managers how the regional manager's vegan transition is going because of something I said. We convinced the whole office our manager had a black belt in Islamic jiu-jitsu.
How do you even pull that off?
I once convinced a friend you can only see the moon from the northern hemisphere. No regrets. I convinced everyone in my unit that our squad leader was afraid of doorknobs.
Oh my God.
That's
Uh,
very funny.
a nursing home resident and myself convinced our kitchen chef that the kitchen was haunted. And that escalated really fast.
Well, Michelle, who works at the aquarium, says we used to freeze the wetsuits of staff that left them in the showers after feeding the sharks. That's hilarious.
I also think of that that podcast you did with John Hunt and Reg Lascaris.
Yeah.
And they said they had that one guy who they made like his office smaller without him knowing.
Yeah, so what they would do, I mean, this is so clever, and obviously, you need to have access to like resources to do this.
Yes.
But my God, it's awesome. So apparently, they had a partner at one point. The three of them needed to have offices on the same floor, and this guy insisted that the offices were the same size because he obviously, he was quite touchy about the fact that he needed to have the same size office because he was just as important, whatever. So that what they did is slowly, because they had a lot of construction going on in the building and there was all drywalling, slowly but surely every week they would make his office just 10 centimeters smaller every week. And these guys, the construction guys would come in every night or, like they worked at night. And then this guy would slowly start to and it took him a while to realize that his office was getting much, much smaller because I don't know, after 10 weeks, you're like a meter of your office is gone. And they kept doing this. And eventually, I think it was 1.5 meters. And he realized, geez, my office is really tiny. And he went next door. The other guy's office was huge. I love that. Bloody amazing. But some people will get very upset about that kind of thing. Hey, I mean, there's some people if you touch the drawers on their desk. No. There's some people if you touch the drawers on their desk, they'll like report you to the CEO and get you fired. And like people are very serious about this stuff.
I remember my aunt, who's no longer with us, used to get upset when the cleaning people came in and messed everything up on her desk in their offices. So she ended up press sticking everything to the desk in exactly the position that she wanted it to be in.
Oh shit! Okay.
Wow.
That's smart. I like that.
A little bit obsessive compulsive.
Another comment. I convinced people at my son's school to call him Suspicious Aiden to differentiate him between someone else in the family who was known as Normal Aiden.
That's not going to give the child a complex as it grows up. That's not going to mess with his head for the rest of his life.
Oh, Lord.
I'm trying to think if someone goes through such extreme lengths and uses so many resources for an office prank, does that mean that the person really likes the person or really hates the person? Do you know what I mean? Like that's a lot of resources to make because I think it's an amazing prank. But to go through the length of making it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, it's either like one of two feelings that you have towards the person.
I think the biggest point would be that that person's reaction. If they overreact horribly and have no sense of humor, then you're definitely going to hate them for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if they're cool about it, you're going to love it, and you're probably going to feel bad and apologize to them for doing what you did.
I'll tell you, a lot of people would hate me because I'm claustrophobic, and if my office started getting smaller, my reaction would not be fun. It would not be fun at all. And I like to think I have a sense of humor, but in that situation, everybody get out! I'm sick and tired of everyone. People would just hate me.
If I had endless resources, I would do like really childish things. Like I would make the door a little bit smaller every week. So that
oh yeah,
so eventually the door's like this. Because people don't really pay attention, so you can sometimes get away with quite a lot. They'll only realize when it's way too late. George Meany says, when I was an article clerk, pranks were a daily occurrence in all directions. Once we wrapped every item, including the computer and newspaper, on a colleague's cubicle. I got into trouble once because when I was I had a show and I was working on this radio station, and like they had these computers, and we kind of had desks, but they weren't really our desks because anyone could use the computer and log in, etc., etc. And mine was right outside the studio door. And when Hansi Cronier died, I'd ordered a new set of headphones, and they arrived with like this like fabric inside. They were very well packaged and everything, but they had this gray fabric inside. So Hansi Cronier died. So I put the fabric over the computer with like a printed picture of Hansi Cronier, and I wrote there Hansi Memorial Computer. and, and there were some people who obviously, I don't know, they were like big Hansi Cronier fans. They didn't find this funny. They thought like I was mocking them too soon and all this shit. So I had to account for myself for the Hansi Memorial Computer, and I still got a picture somewhere of me like sitting next to it, looking all like pious and praying for Hansi and like. I picked some flowers outside. I put them in a little vase. The Hansi Memorial Computer. So obviously, I didn't take it seriously enough for some people.
There was a story of this.
Sorry, go.
Sorry, there was a story of this girl who, an Australian girl who was going in for an interview, a job interview. And just before she went, one of her friends dared her to talk in a different accent during the interview. And they actually Venmo'd her $10, Australian dollars. And she was like, look, I'm unemployed, so I'll take anything. She was like, that's enough for me. And she thought she wouldn't really get the job anyway. It was just one of those things, you know. Shit. So she went into this job with a British accent, or there is no such thing as a British accent, an English accent. And she got the job, and she wrote into this podcast, and she's like, "Hi, I'm just phoning for some advice because it's been 7 months since I've had this job, and I'm still faking my accent. I've moved from the sales floor to like an office position, a managerial position.
Oh my God.
And I've just found out that my new boyfriend is friends with the boss, with one of the people on the top tier. Oh, do I admit it now, or what do I do?
What would you do?
Well, I mean, being a person who avoids harm at all costs,
you just carry on.
Resign. No, I would just resign or move to another country.
Oh my God!
Move to.
What would you do?
Well, I mean, see, I think you got to tell the story in full, because if you just suddenly change your accent back to your normal one, people are going to think you're very weird.
Are you going to tell them that you've been lying for 7 months and risk?
No. I'm going to say when I got this job, I've got a friend who's really fucking crazy, and they dared me, and they paid me money to go in with an accent, and then the joke it got carried away. So now we've got a great story, and let's all carry on. And this is how I really speak, guys. I'd call like an office meeting.
Or just just go on holiday for like 2 weeks and come back with a new accent. It just said it's very influential.
No, it's too difficult. If you make up another story, then it's going to slip at some point. I don't believe this woman was completely consistent for 7 months on the accent front either. I mean, it must have been exhausting.
Well, she even said she had to spin a complete story, because people started saying, well, the first thing they ask when you have an accent is, where are you originally from? And she made up a story that she was from a village in Australia where there were a lot of people from England who had this accent, who lived in this village, and that's how she picked it up from when she was growing up. Oh Lord!
Wow.
I was going to say earlier that I think we really need to. There needs to be more of like prank culture on TV in South Africa, because I mean, I love pranks, but I don't think that we see enough of them for people to feel comfortable with them, because there's like Impractical Jokers in the States and all of that kind of stuff. And what was the one that
we used to have old Leon Schuster. He used to do all those movies where he would prank people the whole time, and I think South Africans love that stuff. I mean, those movies always, that people loved them. Like there wasn't.
We love them.
Yeah.
There
No,
wasn't
we
a whole
definitely
lot.
love watching them. But I think in the later years of Leon Schuster's career, you could see like shit got really intense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people would take it very, very serious because
Yeah,
there's
you're
not
right.
enough. I don't think there's enough pranks, like prank shows out there to make people feel comfortable with it.
No, I think right. South Africa is funny now because so many things happen and everyone thinks it is a prank. Like a minister of electricity. Everyone's like, oh, that's hilarious. And then it's like, wait, hold on. Wait, we for real about this? Thabo Bek escapes out of a prison where everyone thought he was dead. Now he's found in Tanzania, or
you're
someone
right.
took a photo of him.
You're right.
It's like, that's hilarious. Wait, that's real?
No, you're right. South Africa doesn't need. We don't actually need this stuff because we've got enough crazy going on. Maybe that's
Well,
true.
that's totally right. I mean, Style Native Consulting comments, your South Africans will beat you up because we're so stressed as it is, you know?
Yeah.
We're
It's
going
true.
into stage 9. Oh, really? That's hilarious. Oh no, that's real.
No, it's actually not scary. Our real life is too funny. We don't need pranks. Spot on.
I actually saw one of those old South African prank films just yesterday. It wasn't Leon Schuster. It was another guy that we've probably forgotten about. He was an English, like a colonialist. He had a very English accent, but South African. And they did this test where there was like a waiting room, obviously just full of white people. And someone would walk into this waiting room, like a doctor's waiting room or whatever it was. And there was only one chair available. And the person walking in could already tell that it was a bit of a hostile environment. No one looked anyone in the eye. They were very stern. And you just, you didn't greet anyone. You walked in and sat down. And then they cranked up. They had like some kind of heating system in the person's chair. And they started cranking up the heat. And every time this person moved, their chair would squeak. And then everyone in the waiting room would stop and stare at them in dead silence and make them feel really uncomfortable for even moving. So you'd watch this person tolerate this heat. And they had this sound effect, that they'd added post-production, like this, ooh, 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 as they were raising the heat. And you could see this person like really shifting in their chair and even feeling under their bum to find the heat.
Let me put this call on quickly. Hey, what's up? Hello? Hang on a second. Let me just get this person on the line. Hello? Yeah.
Gareth.
Hello,
yeah,
mate.
go ahead.
How's it, man? It's Adam from Dubai.
Hey, Adam. What's up?
Yeah, man, listen, talking about pranks, I used to work in a water park in Dubai where the South Africans created quite a key vibe around the office.
Mm-hmm.
And our GM was from the States. So between me and him, he used to come in late at night to try and scare me and vice versa. So the one day he left his office and he obviously walked into the direction of the toilet. I thought, okay, perfect opportunity to hide under his desk. And when he sits down, I'm going to grab his legs. So I'm sitting under the desk, squatting for about 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the next thing, he walks in with the general manager of Burj Al Arab, the 7-star hotel,
Oh, no.
having a meeting in his office.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm squatting under the table. My knees are hurting like hell. And they sat there for about 40 minutes, having a big conversation. And then eventually, once the meeting wrapped up, they left. And I hobbled out of the office. And as I was walking out, he came back and he's like, yeah, I saw you. I could see your heels sticking out.
Oh, my God.
And he just kept me as long as possible.
Oh, that's so funny. I love that, though.
Listen, I lost out on that one, bro.
That's amazing. I love it.
Cool, man, guys. You must have a good week.
Thank you, my bro. Cheers. Bye. That's such a come up.
I hear the kids next door playing hide and seek. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think, where would I hide? Because I live alone, so sometimes I integrate myself into other people's lives in my head.
I thought you were going to say sometimes I play hide and seek by myself.
Exactly.
That's why I was late this morning. No one had found me since yesterday afternoon.
It's the sad story of Leigh-Ann Mole. Sometimes I just pretend I'm in other people's lives, even though they don't necessarily want me there. And sometimes I just wish they'd find me in hide and seek.
Sometimes I wish I could be the finder. But I'll be like hanging up my underwear, and it gets to like number 50, and I think, well, where would I hide? And I've realized that in my old age, and listening to our caller now from Dubai, I wouldn't be able to sit in a cranked up little hockey for ages. I mean, can you imagine being on your haunches for that amount of time? I'd probably just have to stand behind a big block, like a door or a wall.
Just ask that stupid woman from Spain who stayed in the cave. I'm sure she'd never.
My whole thing is, what do you say when you crawl out of there? Like, if you're not going to sit there for 40 minutes and hide yourself, what are you going to say? Sorry, I was just looking for my pen or something.
Yeah.
Smiley face says, come on, Gareth, you would be great at prank calls. Well, I mean, I did those when I started off in radio, and we used to do some really funny things, but eventually it just became something that everybody was doing. And I was like, nah, this is not cool. But I do remember when I was a kid, I loved doing this stuff as a child. And of course, you don't have an audience, so it's all for your own enjoyment. And I would just call up random numbers in the phone book, because you had like a landline.
Yes.
I just call up random numbers
loved it.
and pretend to be like old ladies or people with very, very ugly and nasty physical conditions. You phone up the pharmacy and you're like, hello, hi, how you doing? I've got a very itchy crotch right now.
Yeah.
What kind of cream should I use on my crotch? And then, I still did this. You remember in a meeting once, I was sitting with you, Leigh-Ann, and we were busy having this serious meeting, and someone phoned me, and I always used to answer my phone and go, how are you? And then
yes, you did.
And it turned out it was like the minister in the presidency who'd called me. Remember that?
That reminds me of the time that you had covered your ID picture in your ID book with a picture of a chimp. And then you had to hand it over for something serious once. And there you were.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
but I remember as well.
I had a picture of a chimp out exactly the same size as my ID picture. And I stuck it on.
Those 80s phone pranks were the best, though, when you could just dial a random number. And my friends and I used to do it, where we'd phone some random house and say that they'd been entered into a competition by Simba, and they needed to roar like a lion in order to win the prize. So we had these random people going, "Rawr." And we'd say, I'm sorry, you've come third, but you've got another chance to better your results. And they'd be like, "Rawr!"
Oh, that's great.
And no one's enjoying it except for you.
It's so much fun. I love that. All right, listen, that's all we got time for this morning. I can't believe the show's already over. We've been busy. It's a 5-day week. You got lots to do. You got plenty of people to see, places to go, money to make, keep the economy going. And even if you think that you're useless, just try and generate some electricity by rubbing your feet on the carpet until you have some static, and then you'll be doing a better job than Eskom. All right. Okay, Mumsy, nice to see you, my friend.
Good seeing you too. It's lovely chatting with all of you.
Leigh-Ann, great to have you there for half the show. And Ryan, we will see you tomorrow.
It's only been an hour.
Yeah.
Bye.